You weren't laid off. You weren't replaced by a person. The software just became better, and the world moved on without you. While everyone else celebrates efficiency, you're quietly mourning. This is the AI grief cycle. It has 4 stages, and whether you realize it or not, most of us are stuck in it. Before we can talk about how to survive this transition, we have to acknowledge the internal collapse happening right now. It's a pattern we've seen every time a craft became a commodity. Think of the 19th century weavers, men and women who spent a lifetime mastering the tension of a loom, only to see steam-powered factories do in an hour what they did in a month. Think of the darkroom technicians who understood the delicate chemistry of silver halide, only to see their entire world replaced by a sensor and a screen. In both cases, the experts told them the same thing they're telling you. Just adapt. Learn the new tools. But that advice ignores the soul of the craftsman. The tools change, but the map of the human spirit remains the same. This isn't about the economy. This is about what happens to your identity when your life's work becomes an automated process. We are struggling to move forward because we haven't reconciled the fact that our skills are being decoupled from our value. Stage 1. The denial. Stage 1 starts with a quiet, comfortable confidence. You've seen the outputs. You've played with the chatbots. They're impressive, sure, but you tell yourself, it can't do what I do. Not really. You look for the hallucinations, the uncanny valley of the images, or the generic tone of the writing. You use those flaws as evidence that you are safe. You convince yourself that your human element, your specific taste, your lived experience, your professional gut, is a fortress that can't be breached by a statistical model. You stay calm while everyone else panics. You might even find yourself explaining to others why they shouldn't worry so much. This is denial. It isn't a sign of ignorance. It's a high-level psychological protection mechanism. Your mind builds a buffer because you aren't ready for a world where your primary skill is optional. But in the age of exponential growth, the software doesn't stay flawed for long. That buffer always cracks, and it never cracks gently. Stage 2. The identity fracture. Stage 2 doesn't arrive like a diagnosis. It arrives like a Tuesday. It happens when something small but fundamental shifts. A meeting you used to lead runs fine without you because the data was pre-summarized. A complex strategy report that used to take you half a day of deep focus generates in seconds while you're still getting your coffee. A client you've had for years, someone who used to pay for your eye and your perspective, starts using a software companion and stops calling you for advice. In that moment, you feel a hollow sensation beneath the professional surface. One day you're making coffee or sitting in traffic, and a question pops up. If I'm not the person who does these things, who am I? This is the identity fracture. It happens because our self-worth is often built on what psychologists call identity contingencies. We define our self by the specific roles we play. You aren't just losing your job, you are losing your currency. For your entire life, you've operated on a subconscious contract. If it was hard to make, it was worth something. We have used effort as a proxy for soul for so long that we don't know how to tell them apart. Realizing your effort was just a variable in an equation is a direct hit to your sense of purpose. It reveals a terrifying psychological truth. Most of what we called our passion was actually just manual labor of the mind that we dressed up in a costume of meaning. Stage 3. The directionless anger. Stage 3 is the one nobody talks about because it feels unprofessional and embarrassing. It's the ugly, directionless anger that flares up at the wrong moments. You're in a meeting. Someone pulls up an AI-generated output, a deck, a brief, a design, and the room is genuinely excited. People are nodding. They're talking about saving time. And you feel a surge of white-hot resentment. Not at the machine, but at the people. You're angry at their lack of standards. You're angry that they can't see what's been lost in the process. You're angry that they are settling for good enough when you spent your life striving for great. But you can't be angry at a software update. You can't ask the future to slow down. So the anger has no real target. You snap at a colleague who didn't deserve it. You disengage. You become difficult to work with. The anger eventually folds inward and calcifies into a story. I'm too old. The world is getting shallower. I'm the wrong generation for this. But you're just reacting to a professional displacement that culture calls progress. And because the culture says you should be grateful for the efficiency, you swallow the grief and carry the anger quietly. This is why stage 3 is where most people get stuck. Not because they're weak, but because they're trying to be reasonable about an experience that feels deeply unreasonable. If this is hitting home, go ahead and subscribe. Every week we are identifying the patterns nobody talks about, but everyone is living through. If you're stuck in stage 3, you aren't alone. Hit like. It genuinely helps others find this who might need to hear it today. Stage 4, the strategic pivot. Stage 4 is where the philosophy stops and the strategy begins. You have to move through this transition to find what I call your human moat. In business, a moat is a competitive advantage that a rival can't easily cross. If you define yourself by your function, I write copy, I analyze spreadsheets, I produce architectural drawings, you have no moat. You are competing with a machine on its home turf, speed, volume, and pattern recognition. You will lose that fight every time. But if you look at your source, you find the specific problems you are uniquely obsessed with solving. A graphic designer is a function. A visual storyteller who understands how to make a complex medical product feel safe to a nervous patient is a source. The machine can generate the image in 3 seconds, but it doesn't understand the human why. It doesn't understand the subtle, irrational human emotions that drive a connection or build trust. This stage is about strategic decoupling. You have to separate the value you provide from the method you use to provide it. If your method was writing 2,000-word articles, that method is being commoditized. But if your value was distilling complex information so a leader can make a high-stakes decision, that value is more precious than ever, precisely because there is now so much noise generated by AI. Reinvention is re-platforming. It's taking your unique taste, your empathy, and your eye for detail, and finding a new way to ship it. The people who survive this cycle aren't the ones who just learned to prompt. They are the ones who realize the machine is a high-speed engine, but they are still the only ones who know where the car actually needs to go. They stopped being the worker and started being the architect. If you recognized yourself in any of these stages, the quiet confidence of denial, the silent fracture of your identity, the directionless anger, or the slow, strategic climb back, understand this. You're not failing to adapt. You're a human being navigating a profound shift in what it means to work. Loss of identity is a real cost of progress. It is a genuine grief, even when that loss was made of code. Once you understand the cycle, you can finally move through it. And on the other side, you might find that the part of you the machine couldn't replace was the only part of the work that ever truly mattered.